my mom told me one time, you need to be careful how you live because God's going to remind you who he is.
Mm.
And you don't want that,
Wow. Yeah.
so, but, those transitional areas, when I see people in that state of new money and then your 40s, you sort of figure it out a little bit better. And then I wouldn't wish what I went through on anybody. If I can give advice like, hey, slow down, do this, make these investments, make it work for you, have a backup plan as far as financially, then yeah. So be more calculated. But when you don't have, children, or if you're not married in your 20s and 30s, yeah, take all the risk possible, but don't let the ego blind you from what can possibly happen in the future.
Welcome to the Delulu Magic Podcast, where we delulu your mindset and create the most magical version of our lives. I'm Paola.
And I'm Gabby, and today we have a special guest, Eliot Garza, who is an entrepreneur and is going to be sharing with us a little bit about his story.
Yes, we're so excited to have you.
Good morning. So nice to meet you guys. Delulu Magic. I love it. I'm real quick to ask questions myself, but how did you guys come up with a name?
Oh, it took a little while, but this was something that we thought about probably a little bit over a year ago, and it was the magic of being delusional. So I took my brother and my mom, and I was like, hey, we're going to have a Delulu weekend. We're going to just only speak the way we want our lives to be. So whatever, if you want to have X amount of followers or you this business. And we did that the whole weekend, and it just creates this like certain energy and puts you in a certain mindset. And I feel like that attracts the vibration more. And then as Gabby and I were kind of coming up with it, we thought of Delulu and a bunch of different variations for the second part, and she came up with magic.
Oh, yeah.
And we thought that was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like we were doing a book like the Law of Attraction book,
Yes.
The Secret, and and the
Yes.
magic one was the one we did it at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
And that was when she was kind of was like, well, do you want to do this, or are we gonna do that now? And I was like, you know what, that actually goes well together. I know that a few weeks ago we kind of were like, I know people might see it like it's something more, different meaning. But I hope at one point they'll kind of get what the point is, that you can make your life magical by your mindset. Like, you can create it, right?
Sure,
And,
yeah.
and sometimes you have to be so delusional in that of believing what it's going to happen. But
Before you even see any proof.
Yeah. So
I 100% believe on the manifestation mentally, emotionally, even body language,
yes,
and what you speak,
yes,
as far as out there, around your environment to execute something that way.
yes.
But also, it's all mental. It starts mentally first. And then, exercising that, no different than you would do your body or you would practice during a game. That takes consistency. The mental side is most important, though.
Yeah. Oh, I 100%. I'm have devoted the past gonna be 7 years
Yeah.
to doing that, and it's been a combination of therapy, reading, podcasts, talking to people, surrounding myself with the right people. That too is a
That's
big
so
one.
important.
You
Yeah.
don't realize that how much your energy or how your mind is affected by what you're feeding it.
Oh, 100%. So, yeah, I get asked, and thank you so much. I'm honored to be on this podcast. Paolo and I go way back.
We do, we
and
do.
she's actually a chapter in my journey I was going to talk about as well, too. She may not know how much she actually helped me when I worked with them back in 2017 and 2018.
Yeah.
I was just coming out of bankruptcy and starting all over again during that time. So it's amazing how you navigate in this world, and God puts certain people in place to make sure that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Even when you're still doubting it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, just step by step, brick to build that wall and of a company that you want to make sure that you move forward with. So we're always going to be tested, though. Always going to be tested as far as making sure that, the process of refinement, and I use this term, reason being this term process of refinement is very important, because anything that has been of use, like this coffee cup, was put through heat, bending, measurement, to become this. It was a process of refinement, but it wasn't easy, this process to go through.
Right.
So we all go through our challenges in life, but that's a process of refinement to be who we are today.
Yeah.
You know.
I think God doesn't test us to break us. He tests us to build us.
Yeah.
Right. And even if we can't see it at the moment, which I'm sure, right, I'd love to hear. So I think you've had an amazing transformation story, but right from being bankrupt to, and probably thinking this is such a horrible situation. How did I get here? You know, all the
Oh my
things
God,
that
yeah.
start going through our head. How did I get here? You know, we probably have like the criticism, to then being able to see what a gift it was.
Yes.
Because we learn from it. Everything that we go through, we learn from. So
Yes.
I'd definitely love to hear about.
Yeah, sure. So prior to me becoming a digital marketing agency, my company is Media Digital Source, and we're a national marketing advertising agency. But prior to that, I was in the print business. I had magazines. I had a medical publication and I had a business magazine as well. And during that time, it was a very popular publication out of San Antonio, and grew out to Houston, South Texas, Corpus Christi, up to Dallas, and then I went full retail on a lot of the grocery stores. You were able to buy it.
Yeah.
But who knew that digital was going to be such an impact?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't recall the last time I picked up a magazine or that I received a magazine in the mail. But during that transition, because of pride, I held on too long. I go, no, this is going to work. This is going to work. And, you know, the biggest overhead in print is not your employment, even though I had about 12 employees, but it's really the print cost.
Yes.
So it starts allocating. And, you know, I made the decision, you know, I take responsibility that I held on too long, pride-wise,
Yeah.
to where it put me in a huge amount of debt. And I had no other choice other than, you know, file bankruptcy and utilize that particular, which was Chapter 7, to make sure that, hey, listen, I still need to keep my house.
Yeah.
I still have a daughter that's
Yes.
2 years old.
Yeah.
You know, those type of things to protect me. And, you know, they do everything. You go through federal court, you get discharged, they check every financial aspect, and they're like, oh man, this guy's broke.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
So,
Like, but look at me now.
Yeah. But yeah. That's,
you know, so, but as to complement what you said, I don't believe that God takes away. I believe he separates distractions from you. You know, so when I said I had a lot of pride, a lot of ego came with that as well too. And there was moments in my life that I thought everything I touched turns to gold. You know, you lose focus on who's blessing you with that. You know,
Yes.
so because God separates you from distractions, he does that because he really wants a relationship with you solely. He doesn't care about your credit score, what's in your bank. He doesn't care what kind of car you drive.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a humbling experience. I had a Mercedes, and I literally took it to the car dealership and turned it in because I didn't want the wrecker to come to my neighborhood and pull it out.
Yeah.
You know, I can speak about that now because I'm in a better place, a better mindset. But the first 3 years of recovering from that was, I mean, really PTSD. Like, man, what's going on? This cloud is weighing over me. The judgment's weighing over me. I lost a lot of my friends who I thought were friends for no reason other than like, I don't want nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but that's part of the separation and the refinement of
Yes.
who's going to be in your circle. Keep your circle small, and you know, really just question anything and people's sincerity and what they're looking for in your life. You know, now it has to be mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
You know, so Bala and her husband was a huge factor because we worked with you guys for about 2 years,
did.
but we obtained, and I met a lot of doctors through them as well too,
Yeah.
on the digital side.
Yeah.
So we were just moving and
good.
shaking.
Yeah, we were
and
busy.
We were busy, and there's stepping stones to that. So even during that time, I probably wasn't very transparent as far as my past and what I just recently went through. Very recent, like maybe a year prior.
Yeah.
I was still on the grind. Like, let's do this. We can make it work. And just building. And we started growing really fast.
I can't imagine because you were always on top of it, so professional. And I've been there too, where you just have something hit you so hard, right? And you just have to keep going, right? But to be able to function and like to be able to show that still professionalism, kudos to you.
Thank you. You know, I do that with a lot of faith that I wake up with. And again, I'm not perfect at all. You know, if you go to my Facebook page, on there it says, "Don't judge me because my sins are different than yours." you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is, you know, hey,
Yeah.
we all fall short.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I'm not perfect. Even today, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. I'm like, man, I shouldn't have did that. Okay, let's go this direction. But I'm just more calculated now around my environment, the energy that comes in, what I need to stop talking to, who I need to talk to, and how to get in these positions of progress. And that's what it comes down to as far as putting yourself in the position of progress. And in order to do that, you have to be surrounded around people who are smarter than you and more successful than you in entrepreneurship in order to grow. You don't want to be the smartest person in your group.
Yep.
Never, you
Yes,
know.
I
And
agree
I spoke
completely.
to a kid yesterday who's going to graduate college in August. The mother I grew up with from my hometown of Alice, Texas, shout out to Alice, called me and never met the kid before in my life. I know the mom. We went to high school, grew up together, and I actually know the dad. He's from my hometown too. Calls me, and I was so impressed. And I said, listen, one of the reasons I'm so impressed with you is, first of all, you called me.
Yeah.
You don't know
Yes.
me.
Yes.
Secondly, you speak very well, and you're only 21. That's unheard of. You know. Secondly, you're asking all the right questions. So I told him, you got to put yourself into positions of growth around the people that you know you're going to grow from. Most of my friends are 5 years older than me when I was in my 20s, and I learned from them as well. Now I surround myself around individuals who own businesses and have gone through it, or high level C executives, because I'm asking questions all the time. Even I'm 51. Even right now, I'm still a student of the game. You have to be coachable. You have to.
And you always have to grow. Yeah.
100%. And I learned the hard way because, again, I had the ego and I had the pride, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing. Don't bother me. I'm going to stick with print. I didn't evolve fast enough.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, okay, what do I do, guys?
Teach me. That's
Yeah.
me. But that's
Yeah.
how I feel. I feel like I a lifelong learner. So I can say that. I love learning. I will be in every, and I will ask. There was a long time that I felt like, inferior and like I didn't know anything. But now I'm like, I will ask and I will go find out, and I'll be around whoever knows more, put me there.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and I want to learn from you.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
absorb.
and I will teach others as well, So
Paolo and I ran into each other. Was it Aspire?
Aspire, yeah.
Yeah.
Aspire, yeah.
Oh
So,
my gosh,
Conference,
guys,
yeah.
the good
The
all
personal
Aspire,
development,
yeah,
we're like, oh.
Yeah.
yeah.
so
love
it was.
those.
It was. I went by myself. Was it here in Houston?
It was here. It was in the Woodlands.
yeah.
Yes. I've done David Ramsey. I've gone to, Nashville to go watch
Yeah.
that as well too. And again, I'm putting myself in positions not only to educate myself, but as far as growth. And those tickets, it's a big investment. It's a couple $1,000s for a ticket.
Yeah.
Right. So my objective was like, I'm going to go learn. I'll listen to David Goggins and Kendra Scott and all these, entrepreneurs. And, but most importantly, the people there next to me, I'm networking with them as well too.
Yeah.
Saying, hi, what do you do? And they want to know what we're doing also, because we're at the level of, okay, he can afford this ticket. He's a man of substance or a woman of substance, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And I ran into, we were just like,
Yeah.
past,
I
like,
know.
hey,
I
what's
grabbed,
up? What's up?
And Eliot's changed, and look, he'll talk about that, but quite a bit. I was like, wait, Eliot, this is crazy. It was just, really random. So
It was so
it was
random.
perfect.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, but you've always had a special place, you and your husband.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
seriously, because that time of my life, I would never speak about it.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I was just rebuilding stage.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about that, because I feel like we talk a lot about, like, just in the society, right? The myth of normal, which is like suppressing. We don't talk about it, right? Which then can really affect your body, your mental state. Did you discuss it with anyone? Were you getting like, like, I'm going to, do therapy. I'm going to, talk about it to get this off my chest? Or were you like, I'm just going to like figure this out myself?
I did. You'd be surprised. The people I did discuss it, who I thought were the closest to me, they lend me an ear, but they sort of separate way.
Yeah.
Like,
Separated, yeah.
yeah, maybe they thought I was gonna ask for money. Maybe I was gonna do. I don't know. And I still love them all. I see people nowadays for my past, but I put them in categories. I'm still civil.
Yeah.
What's going on? Man, your children look great.
Yeah.
And I just move on.
The
Yeah.
course.
Because, we evolve.
Yeah.
I have a very busy daughter who's 12 years old. We evolve in where my time is going to be spent at. But, unfortunately, there's certain things that, I forgive, but I don't forget. mindset, and not to sound like, oh, I can't believe you did that. No, it's not like that. It's just like, you listen, I get it, you know. And also circumstances, I don't know. Maybe some of these friends or so-called friends had a wife, and the wife encouraged them, or vice versa, and like, listen,
Yeah.
you know, he'll figure it out on his own, or whatever the case is. You know, there's no judgment.
Yeah.
You know.
I think everything's here to teach us something, right? You
Yeah.
see that and you're like, okay, great. You know, now I'm going to build these types of relationships, or, or what have you.
But the ones who did help me out were more acquaintances, you know, and
Surprising.
yeah, surprising. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I couldn't. When your credit drops from the high 700s down to a 500 and some, and it's on your credit report that you've been bankrupt, you can't get an apartment, you can't buy a car, you really can't do anything. So you just got to go make some cash and make it work.
Yeah.
So I called a friend of mine, realtor, Rick Rivas, and he's like, hey, listen, I know a guy who owns a condo that he'll lease it to you personally. I was like, cool, let's try that, you know, so I can have a place to live. You know, so those type of relationships, you know, I called another friend of mine who owns a car dealership. I said, listen, man, I had to turn in my Mercedes, and he goes, listen, I'll go ahead and get you a Nissan Sentra. Cool, I'll take it. You know,
Yeah.
from a $20,000 car, I mean, coming from like $100,000 car to a $20,000, I didn't care. This is what it is. Shit, no one's talking to me anyways.
You know what's funny too, because you talk a lot about like gratefulness. We've talked about this, but I know that, at one point, right, when we were like super with flow, and it's like you stop being as grateful. Like you're just like, oh, you just take things like, oh yeah, that came in, this deal came in. But then when you go through something, it's like even that car, did you start feeling like that grateful? Like I'm even grateful for the little things, because I hear you talk a little bit about
I didn't
that.
have a vehicle.
Yeah.
And when I got out of federal court on that discharge, it was February 2017, because I filed bankruptcy in 2016, and then there's a process. So, if you notice, I drove up today in a Nissan Pathfinder. This is my 4th Nissan that I've purchased, being loyal to the car dealership.
Yeah. Wow.
Makes sense?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
They showed up for you.
Yeah, talk about a 19% interest rate to a 2% interest rate.
Yeah.
Game changer. It's like, hey, so no, I mean, because sometimes people, even I do, I want to see what somebody drives and stuff like that, or what type of watch they wear. I do that, and there's a measurement of it, I guess, but people are sometimes surprised when I see they drive up on my Nissan Pathfinder, and I'm like, no, it's not a G-Wagon, but, I'm okay with it,
Yeah.
100%.
And that's all that matters, yeah.
Yeah,
As
I just,
long as you feel good
because
in
my
it.
loyalty is strong,
Yes.
and and as the Nissan Sentra, I went to a Nissan Maxima, and then I had a black Pathfinder, and COVID, it was unfortunate for a lot of people health-wise, but it was probably one of the biggest blessings that ever happened to me personally and my business.
Yeah, because everybody
Everything went
went
digital.
home. Everything went digital. That was the boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Now, when you and I were working together, you were a little heavier.
I was 40 pounds heavier.
and no, and I say this because I find it. You just did this whole we keep up on social media, right? And just this whole transformation,
Mental, physical.
right? Like
everything.
you were running. How many miles are you running?
I would,
run?
3 to 5 a day.
Come on, a day. Come on,
Yeah.
a week would be
Yeah.
a win for me.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 times a week and stuff. And the thing is about running 3 to 5 miles, those are 25-minute warm-ups.
Yes.
And then I do a lot of calisthenics,
Yes.
light weights and
How
stuff.
do you, sorry to cut that off, but how did you go? Because I know she's mentioning that, but was it from when you had kind of like you hit rock bottom that you were like, okay, I gotta now start over completely, and then you said I'm gonna pay attention to me, like my
Well,
body and
a
your
lot
health, or did you
during
have anything
during
happen?
2017 and 2020 when
Yeah.
COVID happened. My father had passed in 2019.
Yeah.
He was 84 years old, and he was diabetic, going through dementia and everything else. And I'm like, man, this is not a place I want to be at.
Yeah.
And he had been eating and his lifestyle that way for the longest time. He was never going to change.
Yeah.
And then later on that year, after my father had passed, my brother had recognized that he had a slight heart attack. Okay, so he himself has had to go through surgery to have a mini defibrillator.
Yeah.
And I was already on medication for hypertension. So I'm like, man, genetically I'm prone to this.
Yes.
You know, and there's a saying when somebody says, well, diabetes runs in my family. I'm like, no, you just don't run.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
It's true.
it's true. Like, no, you just don't
Yeah,
run.
it's in reverse.
So, COVID happened. Everybody was quarantined. How long was that quarantine for? About
For us, not really. It was about 34 months. No, we did not follow it. Texas
Yeah.
we did not. We
love
were all
rules.
like, take everything off.
so what?
Maybe-
3 months.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say 3 to
Yeah.
4 at
Texas
the minimum.
3 solid that we felt it. Yeah.
So
Restrictions.
I shared custody with my daughter. My daughter was with her mom during that time, and I'm just at home. And I'm like, shoot, what do I do? And the research was showing how COVID would spread and,
Yeah.
you know, fat cells and everything else. And I'm like, dude, I'm a fat ass. I need to go do something.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
during that time of not being bored, I called a friend of mine. Listen, can you work me out during the garage? He's a personal trainer. You're not making any money anyways. You're probably breaking the law.
Yeah.
Come to my garage.
Yeah.
Let's work out.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I called another buddy of mine. Shout out to Carlos Gonzalez. He's an attorney. I said, hey, I need an accountability partner, somebody to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, you know. And he's very competitive, right? I'll go to your house and work out in your garage too, right? I'm like, cool. Let's see who can lose more weight. So we would compete against each other that way as well too.
Yeah.
So, and he would hold me accountable. I'll hold him accountable, you know. So, and then, you know, I just started like, dude, this is really cool.
Yeah.
You know, feeling better,
Felt
clothes
Yeah.
fits better. Yeah. So
And your mind. Do
Mind,
feel
mentally.
Like you were, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were more creative. Like you're creative. You're
100%.
creative. So I
Yeah.
can imagine it was a good time to start feeling good.
it was a good
overall.
time, you know, and then at that particular, I need to get my mind off because like, what's happening? I cannot believe this is happening to me again on business because I just came out of bankruptcy a couple years prior.
Yeah.
I had to furlough my employees.
Yeah.
Uh, And exercise was my therapy.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna, not again.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that PTSD like that. Oh,
Yeah.
shit, yeah.
Course.
Yeah.
Stress.
Like, what do I do? Well, not again. You know, so just patience and Zoom call was the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, let me
Yeah.
figure this app out.
Yeah.
You know, it was always around, but nobody would use it.
Yeah.
I know, which is so
It
crazy.
became
Now
everybody's
it's every
best
day.
friends.
We're on some type of
100%. Do
Zoom
you
call.
remember before COVID how much we would drive? We would drive
Yeah, I
so
know.
much
I
in our
remember,
field.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
Down to the Rio Grande Valley,
Yeah.
to
Everywhere.
North Texas, everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I was putting in probably about maybe 50,000 miles a year. That's
Wow.
a lot.
That is a lot.
Yes,
We
driving.
could have done so much, yeah, over like what?
Now you look back.
People are
you're
looking like, what's wrong with y'all?
Yeah, I would drive just for the introduction, not even knowing if they're going to want to do business with me.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
how
still
it was
think there's
done.
something to that though,
probably,
but
like,
Yeah.
you know,
in
yeah.
person.
I know.
Maybe because you're.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get the feel.
Yeah.
So, question: how did you keep up? Because you've been working out now that's been 5 years.
Yes.
Right. And I think I want some tips. I want to know. People want tips. Like, how do you
Share with us.
keep that consistency? Because
me too.
I've never, and I always tell Gabby this. I want to be that person that understands when they're like, "Oh, I started exercising and now I'm addicted to it because I feel so good, the endorphins." I'm like, "Well, when are mine coming?" Because I've worked out for months at a time, but then it's like I always kind of drop off, or maybe it's that I don't prioritize myself, or that's one of the things that I'm working on. But so I want to hear, how do you keep making it a priority? Because you've been extremely consistent.
You know, right now, I used to be the accountability partner working out and having challenges in competition. I'm very competitive. Now it's me telling my daughter, you will never beat me in a race. You know,
Yeah.
and she's
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
And she might be able to beat me in a race now because
coming.
it's coming. It's like, man,
I'm assuming. Yeah.
you know,
like, I gotta
it's like,
keep
oh, my
harder.
You're all
Achilles.
challenging.
I'm like,
You're all challenging
my
your 12-year-old.
Achilles.
Your Achilles. Yeah. Everything. Yeah. We're not made for the same.
You know, so I'm always measuring where I stand at 51 years old. I'm an older father, right? So my daughter friends' parents are usually maybe late 30s. So I'm very competitive internally. They probably even know I'm sizing them up. I'm like, oh, I'll run circles around.
I got this.
Like, you want to race? We'll go right now.
So I'm always looking for ways to challenge myself, personal quotas, how I feel, how I wake up. I think my biggest challenge right now with my daughter being in travel basketball is staying away from the concession stands. Man, those nachos, hot dogs, and burgers, and
I did it for
you
8
know.
years though.
So, yeah, and I'm like, okay, we're here all day, and I'm keen to that.
Yeah.
But and then I'll just go run it off or get a Peloton on a Peloton or whatever the case is. But personally, it's just short quotas of your regiment where you want to be at. I think that people who, and I do weigh myself a lot, and I shouldn't be doing it, but I think people who are always measuring it opposed to how they feel is going to be important. How you feel is going to be very important. You know, I'm a big advocate of getting your lab work done because that is
Baseline.
that's the baseline.
Yeah.
Okay, and then during that labs, then they say, hey, listen, I have a high salt intake. Okay, and that's what I know about my labs
Yeah.
because I'm always eating out.
Yeah.
Whether it's healthy or not, there's still a lot of salt.
Yeah.
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So therefore, okay, I know I need to cut back on that. How do I come back on that? Well, I need to cook more at home. Okay. I'm not very domestic that way. So I'm still, trying to adjust to that. Or I go get prep meals or whatever the case is. So I think that's going to be the blueprint if getting your labs done and then look at where
Are you?
are you and what you can bring down. I encourage everybody because there's people that are they want to get healthy, right? But they're not in a good state healthy wise to go do a CrossFit. You can get a heart attack that way. You can hurt yourself internally.
Well, in most things, if you don't really start at a baseline and you get an idea of kind of like where exactly is your body at, what needs to happen for it, right? 'Cause,
True.
like your conditioning now, I mean, it's 5 years of it, like
Yes.
to be out there, we would go out there like a quarter of a mile and probably be on the floor, you know, just because we haven't even attempted to be consistent. Start from baseline and then look at everything.
Yeah, so I've seen some guys on social media and they're heavier set and they're going all out on training. I'm like, dude, no, you're gonna hurt
So
yourself.
hard, yeah.
You're gonna
Maybe
hurt.
I think that's what I do. I could go like all hard and heavy, and then I'm like, I'm so
We-
sore.
You've established your both lines too
Yeah.
too hard.
So when I
We
was
need
when I
to find
started
that.
running,
that middle
I would
ground.
run 12 minute miles.
Yeah.
And I only did 1 mile, but I would walk run it. I would run for 1 minute, walk
Yeah,
for 30
yeah, yeah,
seconds,
yeah.
and then do it on the way back because I couldn't finish a mile.
Yeah.
I just couldn't.
Yeah.
And when you're heavier set, it's harder on the joints,
yeah.
and on the ankles and everything else. And I'm like, diet does play everything. So that's where it's at, just little baby steps. Because if I would have gone in and said, let's go do CrossFit, I would have failed miserably. I would have given up.
Yeah.
You can't measure yourself with somebody else's ruler. In other words, if you see what I'm doing and you want to come work out with me, you're going to be disappointed and not want to go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, that does.
So setting the expectations, realistic expectations, is going to be very important.
Yeah. That's
with little steps.
Little baby.
But it's my therapy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. It's just like,
It's part of your life.
I should
right?
get there.
Like
Huh?
you know,
I said I should get there. I'm already there.
I think you found right, like something that you added it to. how you
yeah.
let-
I'm
how
not
you
a
let
pleasant person to be around if I miss working out for 2 days.
Yeah.
I just don't feel right.
Yeah. Because your body needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother who retired military, he taught me this mindset. You're only 30 minutes away from feeling good. You're only 30 minutes away from a
That
good
is
mood.
exactly right. Yeah.
30 minutes away from a good mood.
Yes. He's
Yeah.
100% right
Mm-hmm.
because there's not a workout you regret unless you go like cold to CrossFit or try to kill yourself, like things like
Yeah.
that. But most times you come back feeling great. You from a walk or things
Yeah.
like that, you always
For
feel
sure.
better.
I do.
Once
And-
you're done.
And I think that does help a ton with the way, when we talk about Delulu Magic, our thoughts affecting our reality. When I do like go for that walk or, lightly work out, it's, it's like I'm not, let's say if I am in a spiral, not spiraling as much. It's like, the cortisol level goes down and just everything, you do feel a lot better.
Yeah, 100%. And you're better around people, your children, your partner, employees. Is just,
Just happier.
yeah. My daughter's even called me out. She's like, "Papi, did you not work out today?"
Oh.
I'm like, "Okay, you're right. You know what? I'm so sorry."
I'm gonna go right now.
And I'm thinking she probably knows I'm easily irritated right now. That's why. You know what I mean?
That's so funny.
Yeah. So she's understanding, the importance of exercise, and not that I'm preaching it on her, I just posted something yesterday. I see a lot of parent athletes grind their kids, go practice, go practice, go practice, and everything else. And but if they're not leading by example, who are you to,
Yeah.
hey, go work out, show your kid that you're doing it also, so it won't be like, okay, you know what my dad's doing, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know, um, my daughter is around many people who are busy and physically fit. Her mom, myself, it's just part of our culture now. Like she understands it.
good.
How
You
important
know,
it is.
how important it is.
Yeah.
So, there's times she doesn't want to go to practice, whatever the case is. But it's either you're not going to be on your phone if you don't want to go to practice. Okay, I'll go to practice. You know what I mean? Because
But it's
Yeah,
it's
I might
a
as well, yeah.
part of
I might as well.
If I can't be on my phone, that's the one thing I wanted to do.
That's all I want to do.
No, I think it's really cool. So she does basketball, and you started a charity. I feel like alongside with right. You guys are doing this together.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the charity is called Athlete Unlimited Let Them Play program. So my daughter's been playing club basketball for about 3.5 years. I recently put her in flag football, and she ran track for the first time as a sixth grader, running with the seventh graders. She goes to private school in San Antonio, but which allows the sixth graders to
Yeah.
play up, and then she's with a travel team in San Antonio as well too. But in all AAU sports, it's become because of the demand, it becomes a business as well too. In any industry, when there's a demand, there's a business.
Yeah.
The kid I just talked to yesterday graduated with a digital marketing degree. Who knew that you can go to college for digital
They
marketing?
can do dual. Yeah.
It was never a thing,
Yes.
but the demand
It's there.
is there, so therefore you can go to college for it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So, especially with now AAU and college students getting paid for
The NIL,
the
yeah.
NIL program. I mean, it's becoming a business.
It's a business. Yeah.
And there's politics involved.
For sure.
But unfortunately, there's a lot of kids from either the urban area, the east side or south side of the cities who cannot afford the fees. Basketball is probably the least expensive
Yes.
club sport. Then you have volleyball, you have soccer, you have gymnastics, you have golf. I mean,
Baseball and cheer.
baseball. So
Yeah.
basketball is about $150 a month,
Yeah.
and it's the least. You're looking at other club organizations that charge $250, $500 a month, $600 a month. So what happens is that when you have a team of, say, 8 players and 4 of them can't make it because they cannot
those
afford
fees.
the hotel or
Yeah,
the
on
travel,
top of that, the
or
travel.
and they're good athletes, and you're not a full team without them, and they may be the star athletes, either a parent picks it up,
Yeah.
the tab, or what's going to happen, but it's on a consistent basis.
And
Yeah.
the whole team suffers.
The whole team suffers.
Yeah.
So my daughter and I had gone to 2 tournaments, one here in Houston, one in the south side of San Antonio. And I think what really made my eyes open is when we were in a tournament here in Houston, I saw 2 moms with iPads, and I thought they were recording their children. But no, they were FaceTiming the father who was in the parking lot who didn't have an extra $20 to get in to come watch the game. Because there's even entry fees.
Yes.
Yes.
Per
So
day.
yeah, so if you're a family of 5 and you want to go watch one kid, that's an extra $100 for everybody to go.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Every weekend.
on every weekend. And hotel and then club. So you're looking probably around $700-800 a month easy. That's going to one kid for club sports. So and then in the south side of San Antonio, we're leaving another tournament. She saw some kids selling bottles of water to make the next tournament, and rightfully so. I love that. I love when kids, go sell stuff, whether it's raspas, tacos, whatever the case is, right? It builds character. Well, I did it as a kid too. I ran track and I played baseball for AAU, and we went to go raise money ourselves. I'm all about that. But sometimes not even that's not even enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Not the way it is now.
So she wanted to say, Bobby, can I go out there and help him sell waters? And I said, God, this neighborhood's not the best neighborhood right now. I go, let's think of something else. So that's when I came up with a nonprofit. But what's amazing is that December 18th last year was the first fundraiser I had. And because of my corporate network and colleagues and acquaintances, as far as people like you guys and everybody, I called them all to sponsor an event. And I was very surprised at how big of a turnout. We had over 300 people at attendance, and we raised $34,000 that night
Oh, I love that.
on the first night.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple of kids, and I asked, "Does anybody want to sponsor this kid?" And other executives like $1,000, 1,000 here. I was like, "Oh my God!"
Wow.
You know. And you know how you're overwhelmed all night,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you're mentally drained of networking and talking. You don't realize the success until maybe a day or two later.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Wow, that was a great event."
That's incredible.
You know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then I asked myself, what was it about this AAU nonprofit that's relatable to everybody? Well, you know what? And one of the things I really have always thought about my daughter playing in sports is that it builds character and leadership.
Yes.
does.
we
And
talk a lot
all
about
these
that.
C-level people, all the executives, entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
they all play sports. So they remember.
Mm-hmm.
So it was relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
That's
important it
amazing.
is.
And you are changing so many children's like lives by doing this. How many would have to drop out or
Or go the
Really?
wrong
Wouldn't
direction.
have
Yeah,
the
or go-
opportunity. Other things would happen. Just,
Oh,
you know,
100%.
it's just.
So the middle school age right now is probably the most sensitive time of a kid's life,
Yes.
right?
13 to
Yeah.
15.
Yeah, so it's changing. So they either stay active in sports or they go a direction with friends that they don't want to be in that environment,
yes.
you know. Mind you, it costs about $100 just to go breathe the air outside with your kid.
Yes. Yeah.
The days are over to where you go play down the neighborhood.
Yeah.
There's none of that.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm a big proponent. Like with I always her, we have kids, big kids, right? But her in height. But I always said keep them busy. Kid, they got to be in something. Put them in a team. They got to learn how to make it work with other people. They got to figure it out. They got to know how to grind. You know that whole everything it teaches you in that, right? And then I have seen my kids have been in private school too, and I've seen when they play, they did AAU, and it was sad
Yeah.
because I did a lot of that. I gave to others to help.
Yes.
Because I was like,
you can't, yes.
you know, I just feel so unfair because this kid deserves a chance to
Yes,
finish
deserves
this,
a
You know,
chance.
so that to me sounds just,
Yeah.
I love it. That's
You
so,
know,
it's
and there's so
very
much I've learned
exciting.
as far as, the dynamics. I come from humble surroundings. The other day I was talking about the difference between being poor and broke. We weren't poor, but we were broke all the time. Money was coming in, but it was tight. But I understand poor. I understand poverty. I've seen it in different parts of the world, in different countries. And it's not a position that I wish anybody to be in at all.
Yeah.
But, as far as what I've learned, I've probably learned more raising my daughter as a parent and the world than she even can imagine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the things they
They're our
teach us,
teachers.
they are.
They
Yeah.
are. That's how we learn.
That's
For
how we learn.
us, you know, especially seeing you see it through their eyes, and now you see the world, you know. And everybody, I feel like every child, for me, I'm a mother, but I feel like everybody's child is my child
Yeah.
as well. Like I'm always like feel I'm gonna be concerned because you're somebody's child, and
Yeah.
you could be my
Yeah.
child, and we're all, you know,
Yeah,
connected. You know, we talk a lot about that here, that we're all connected in some way, and we should all look out for each other. And what you're doing with her, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
can you
so
imagine
it-
how proud she is.
And again, we've had, we recently had a golf tournament, raised another 22,000.
Wow.
We're going to have a corporate 3-on-3 basketball tournament.
How
Oh,
fun.
Get all
that's
these men.
fun. Oh my God, that's gonna be funny.
Yeah, so that's going to happen in August. And then we'll do our 5th annual art, because I've been having this art exhibition event. That's the first one I did in December 18th. We're going to have it again in December. And that's a little bit more semi-formal, and just get everybody to come purchase art, and percentage goes to the nonprofit. And then we have our sponsorships that we sell.
Yeah.
But I can go on and on. There's so many different lessons. My daughter is in private school. She plays club ball. Most of these kids are in public school. Nothing wrong with that. I grew up in public school as well. And mind you, there's some little there's bad influences everywhere, even in private school.
For sure.
you know, I was gonna say some words, but
Oh, I could give you a lot
Huh?
more there. I think there's a whole nother level up there.
Yeah,
The more money,
so-
the more
yeah,
things.
I'm like,
So,
I'm like
yeah.
that little bastard in private school.
Like,
So it's just I'm teaching my daughter as far as, hey, listen, you know, she's a pretty girl. She has dimples
Aw.
and you know, I have to teach her how to be tough because there's a difference between being passionate, which she is, opposed to hunger, which is other girls are, and they know that if she's going to be playing against them, that's their meal ticket. Like, I need to be better than Ellie.
Yeah.
I show her the difference. But she's physically now understanding, and she's playing hard as well too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But there is a difference. I see her passion, but
Yeah.
I see the other little girl's hunger. I'm like, ooh, that girl's a beast.
yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know something when you come from a certain like
Uh-huh.
Oh
place
no!
and
And
you're
when you
just
go
like,
out,
yeah.
like you said, the tournaments. When
yeah.
you go out into those tournaments,
Uh-huh.
like one of my sons played for 8 years, and I remember we would go out and we would show up, and I mean, my husband would always be like, our faces. I'm like, oh, they're gonna kill them, like our team, just
Yeah.
coming in because you
see
just
the hunger.
and there's something that these other kids. They work hard, have the discipline, but it just does not compare. I remember
It doesn't
when-
compare.
Yeah,
That's their ticket out,
Yeah,
and they
yes,
know.
yes.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I'm going to
Yeah.
college.
You got something
Yeah.
to prove. You got like, yeah.
My
you're
oldest
like-
son would always tell his brother that, and he'd be like, "Oh no, you're going in with those kids. Those kids and their families, they know that they're going to D1 school. They got it all." Like I'm like, and my son's like, "But I've been training all year," and I'm like,
Yeah.
You're not. They're not.
Yeah,
You're
the
not coming in
complete
with
difference
that.
between passion and hunger.
Well, yeah.
You know, and you know, right now I teach my daughter, you can have all the talent in the world, but practice will beat talent every day. You just practice, practice, practice. Because talent, you eventually take that for granted and don't practice as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so just little things like that. And I'm learning too. I'm like, gosh, you know, these, and I'm rooting for those kids who are hungry.
Oh yeah.
And those are the ones that the sponsorships are going to as well. You know, it's like, wow. But I mean, we've raised probably around $70,000.
And this has only been like within like
Less
a
than
year.
8 months.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Congratulations.
and we sponsor kids
Congratulations.
6 months at a time.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, it's around $1,500. So
Yeah.
the money goes quick.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
The
yeah.
money goes
And
to the
that's-
coach organization. Hey, this kid's covered for the next 6 months. Cool. And then there's an application process as
Yeah,
well
yeah,
too.
That's
And
good. You better.
but yeah, I want to grow it until eventually apply for some grants and everything else and see. I had no idea that it was going to have these type of legs, but it's like, okay, cool.
And how special that you guys get to do it together and that she gets to see, when you have, it is also beautiful to give.
Yeah.
Right? And give without just like expectation. And so I love that you guys did this
Yeah.
together.
When I take her to the events and stuff and I lose track and she's there networking and shaking hands and working their groove, I'm like, damn, this little
She's your
girl.
daughter.
Yeah.
You know,
Because they learn
People
from the
wanna meet her.
example.
She
Yeah, it's
picked
not what
up,
you
like,
say,
yeah.
it's what you
But
do.
you do. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I love hearing this.
yeah. So yeah, that's that chapter of my life as well too. As far as business, this is becoming almost a full-time job as well. And
Okay, I can
trying to travel around with my daughter. She plays in Buda, Texas this coming weekend for another tournament. And when she doesn't have tournaments, I have no life. I'm like, gee, what do I do?
Yeah. Well, the good thing is you work out so you can have the energy
Yeah.
for all of this.
Yeah.
Like Rab's on the working out. I'm like, I'm about to
Yeah.
go run after this.
gonna come back and
in
be
the
like,
Texas heat. I'm
You be her accountability part.
Like,
she
Elliot-
needs somebody
I
actually.
text
done
Elliot.
it.
I was like, I just want to there's this lake
Somebody.
around my in my neighborhood. I
Uh-huh.
just want to be able to get through that whole loop. Just like running, not even running. Let's
Stopping?
jogging,
Slow
light
jogging?
jogging,
Well, that's how
but
you
just to
start.
get around.
Right, yeah.
So I'm gonna start doing. I got like 3/4 of the
It's
way,
always
and then I-
big. Don't
then I stopped.
overextend yourself. Just do it to where
you
you're
can.
capable of doing it, and then every week go a little bit further.
Yeah.
Every week go a little bit further.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see what's going on the people. So people are easily influenced on social media. Social media is a reality. Okay. It's a reality of a platform, in other words, but it's not a reality in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be at that level. And that's that quote I always say, don't measure yourself with somebody else's ruler. Because I've been doing it, we're in 2005, I've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
If I show you pictures 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I have recordings on my Facebook memory, it says 11-minute mile.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, dude, I was slow. You know what I mean?
That was my top when I used to run. It was like 10 and a half, and I was like, I'm so good at
Don't
this.
let me get an 11-minute mile. When I run around that lake, I'm gonna be like, y'all
Well,
are
for
gonna
me,
see a
compared, I mean,
process like
I can run
Rocky.
I can run a
Be like,
6-minute mile now. It's just different.
Because you're conditioning, but
Yes.
you did the work. Like,
Yes.
here's the work, right? You did
Yes.
the work. That shows you, right? Paul is like,
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
your time.
I wasn't even doing that in high school. I'm like at a. God.
So, I mean, it's just, but yeah, I look at it back now and it's like, cool that, when I was running and I had nothing to prove. Nobody was around. It was
Yeah.
COVID. It was like, okay, let me go do this again.
Yeah.
Lots of hills in San Antonio, but
It's a great place for running. People love it out there.
I had planner's foot and everything else. I'd wobble out of my,
But you kept at it.
I swear, I wobbled out of my bed. It sucked. I remember that. It sucked bad. But I just continue doing it.
Yeah.
I believe this is what I think. I think if you do something for 6 months consistently, it becomes a part of your habit. It becomes a part of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 months. Give it 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you because I think people are always told, 21 days, a month. I'm like,
Yeah.
something will come in and it will like, you'll be like, out later next day. I'll get back to it. And you have to like actually
Your
Prioritize it.
Your body will talk to you
Yeah.
and literally say, "Hey, what's up? What's up? You haven't done shit today."
Oh yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
get it every day.
Because your body's like, it's not.
What are we doing?
Yeah, what are we doing here? You've been eating tacos freaking past 2 days. And mind you, I don't diet all the time. I don't. I just make sure that everything in moderation. I don't eat breakfast.
Yeah.
The one thing I cut out.
Yeah.
I probably won't eat till like 12:30 or 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I don't eat after 6 o'clock.
Well, look at all that though.
Yeah,
Like you were
these are
able to
good
do for
tips.
your body. I mean, I'm sure like how if you get lab work now, I'm sure it's just
Yeah,
like
it's different.
phenomenal, right? Like
Yeah.
if you compare it to
Yeah.
starting
I
point.
eat heavy for lunch and then
Yeah.
a light dinner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, let's go to bed.
Yeah.
But if I hang out with people and they're bringing food after hours, I'm like, shit, let me have some of that.
Let me have a taco.
Because I'm vulnerable. I'm like, oh, dude, okay, let me have
I
some.
will indulge.
I will indulge, So I don't want
balance.
Yeah, I don't
you
want.
can't.
I'm not that type
cut
of person that is judgmental what everybody else is eating, but because I've been around people that makes me feel uncomfortable because they're so healthy.
Yes.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, nobody at our age I think likes that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there was a point that it was a lot, but I don't. But do you feel that? So hearing that, do you feel like your life right now it feels kind of balanced? I mean, not perfection, but just kind
Yeah.
of like there's a good flow to everything between
I feel-
personal, physical,
Yeah.
work.
I feel that because where I'm at right now in the state of mind and my health and emotions, that I receive disappointments better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. My company's doing very well. We're profitable. I recently lost a huge account that's been with me for 6 years. And one of my employees was like, "Man, I'm surprised how you're handling this."
Yeah.
'Cause it was a big account. And my mind is like, okay, well, let me go recoup that business. Let's go get some new business.
Yeah.
Because I'm an advocate of working on the business, not in the business anymore.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes the owner has to step back in
Yes.
and go work in the business again.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me network. Let me call some people. Let me,
see.
whatever, to recoup that loss of revenue and make sure that we can get back there again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's
So it's a different mindset of, okay, as a business owner, you're going to have those ups and downs.
Of course.
How you react to it is really going to matter. And I hate to sound so cliche, but it really does. How you react to anything is going to matter.
yeah.
Because if your thoughts is like, oh my God, like the panic, then I think that sets that energy
Yes.
in motion. Whereas it's like, okay, I've got this. God's got me. Like I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
It sets out a different, intention and energy.
100%. The client I talked to last night on a Zoom call, they canceled an agreement with us 4 months ago, and now they're coming back.
Okay.
So there's things that happen, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what happens behind the scenes of clients, the C-level or other business owners. It could be anything.
Yeah.
I don't question it. I always leave with a high emotional IQ of, hey, man, I wish you the best.
Yes.
Here are all your assets. And if you ever need us, we're here. Most of the time, they're surprised because a lot of contracts, there's emotion involved.
Yes.
The person gets upset.
The person gets upset and everything else. I don't do that.
That's
And about maybe 25% of the time, they usually come back. And I had that experience yesterday. this other client that we're dissolving our relationship. Maybe they'll come back. I don't know. You know what I mean? So you don't know until you go test other waters and other agencies or other businesses or other partnerships or relationships,
Yeah.
whatever the case. You don't know until you know. You know. So, but I understand what that C-level executive, business owner, entrepreneur may be going through, to where I don't even question, why are you leaving, man? I can't be. I don't even question it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
What's fair to me is like, give me a 30-day notice.
Yes.
Gives me time to go recoup the money I'm going to be losing, and let's move on.
Yeah.
And I
Navigate.
mean, it seems like accepting, right? Like, you know what your role is as a owner, and then what you need to
Yeah.
do, and then what you need to do for the business as well.
Yes.
You know, being so,
Yes.
I would call it being open to, hey,
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
instead of, you know,
Yeah.
cycling into.
Yeah, you know, as far as digital marketing, I've been doing this for 26 years, 19 on my own. I love it. I really do. This chapter of my life, personally, and my company has no debts.
Yeah.
Everything's just equity, sweat equity. You just grind it out and build revenue and relationships and making it work.
And it's so amazing again to see that transformation right back from what 2016 you know claiming bankruptcy to being here now. How did you? Because Gabby and I we went to this. It was Lewis House, and it's about relationship with money. And I don't think a lot of us, and I don't know if you ever did before that, thought about like your relationship with money. And you grew up, right? You're saying like between being poor and broke, but how was your relationship with money before, and how do you feel like you have to change that and really like talk through it or kind of think about like your subconscious beliefs once you went through that bankruptcy, and how has that kind of changed?
You know, my relationship with money is, it's meant to be spent and invested. You know, I do not put myself in a position of just blowing money. I don't do happy hours. I rarely do dinner meetings. You know, I want to make sure that my time is well spent and there's a return, both with the person I'm meeting with as well too. I'm a strong advocate of buying your time back. So what I mean by that is I hire the right people, I'll invest so I can have the freedom to go do what I'm good at.
Yeah.
I love business development. That's just a fancy word for sales. I love sales, right? I love it. That's all I want to do. I just want to sell. I want to meet with people, break bread. How much money did I make your company this month? Awesome. Good job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, everything's so transparent. So my relationship with money is more to invest it back in areas of growth, you know, opposed to the materialistic aspect. Sure, man. I like nice stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm very vintage. I like Penguin, Lacoste. You know, but again, it's what am I going to get out of it? You know, my most expensive, I call it investment, is my season tickets to the NBA Spurs.
Of course, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
a great investment though,
For
'cause
sure.
that is experiences. And for
The
you with your
experiences
daughter,
plus
yeah.
the people I'm meeting down there.
Yes.
You know, this is my third year courtside seats,
Wow.
but everybody there,
Uh-huh.
I'm investing in it.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
people there are probably, that's just side money. That's just like,
Yeah.
but I want to be around those people to meet, network. And I've picked a business there. I made relationships there. I've learned so much down there. You know, I've had lunches with those people. It's just that level of success is different.
Yeah.
They don't know that I'm investing in that seat to meet them. And they might send their teenage kids, whatever the case is, whatever it is, right? But I'm investing in that time to get that return of being around that level of success and entrepreneurship.
And I love that because it's putting yourself in that energy. Like, already you're successful, but let's say if you weren't, and you're like, hey, I'm going to put myself in this position
Yeah.
to be in this energy, to see how other people act, and kind of just embody this.
100%.
And I think that again helps all that success flow so much faster.
It's a big investment. Those seats are very expensive, and you know, I think the Spurs are going to do great next year. But you know, I'll invest in it and drive off of my Nissan Pathfinder.
That's right. Whereas I probably feel like before it would have been different, right? Like before your life or the way you used
Yeah.
to see things before, it'd be
It
more.
was different. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was more of what car I'm going to be driving, you know, flexing and what dinners I'm going to be going to and everything else. But it and just showing off and just really just being a tool, man, just being a jerk. I don't like that chapter in my life. I recognize who I was and who I am now.
Yeah.
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 I love
I mean,
that growth.
it's self-awareness is extremely important.
What did she say? She told me yesterday. What did we see each other yesterday or
No.
Tuesday when you said the first, like you never knew what it meant. The know thyself.
Oh,
She's
know
like, that is
thyself.
the basic.
I'm like,
thing,
you know, you always hear
self-awareness.
that when you're young. Oh, and know thyself and Rumi and all this. And I'm like, I wish I would have taken that seriously to really just go within. It was always like this external chase. Like I have this goal, and once I get here, I'll be happy, right? And then you hit that, and you're like, well, now I'm not so happy. You know, it didn't feel like I thought it was gonna feel. And you keep chasing, and you become almost less grateful. Like you said, you're like, oh, everything that I do is great, and
Yeah.
it's almost God, I think, sometimes sends you to kind of like rock you
100%.
to realize that you disconnect from him and from yourself. You don't like go right, because I think God lives within us. So if you don't know yourself, if you don't take time to like be silent and communicate with him and kind of get these amazing, beautiful messages, it's and sometimes it's needed. Like, right, I think everybody goes through that journey. You're rocked a little bit, but it makes you reflect, and it makes you become more self-aware, and all of a sudden you realize that you're like, I didn't really maybe love the way I was handling things, or the person that I had, you know, becoming. And it happens so slowly that sometimes you don't see it.
Yeah, it's crazy what money does, though. I see entrepreneurs and business guys in their 30s, and they remind me of me back then. And I'm a lot more forgiving. Like, I remember that personality. I remember that character. That was me.
Yeah.
I'm not so judgmental, and I just hope they grow out of it soon.
Yeah.
Because new money it'll blind you.
Oh, of course.
When I say new money, you're a business owner. You're making new money,
Yeah.
maybe making
You've
$200,000 or
never had
$300,000 a
this.
year.
You
You've
had
never,
that, yeah.
and then now you're flexing and everything else. And
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
oh, my mom told me one time, you need to be careful how you live, because God's going to remind you who He is, and you don't want that.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but those transitional areas, when I see people in that state of new money, and then your 40s, you sort of figure it out a little bit better, and then I wouldn't wish what I went through on anybody. If I can give advice like, hey, slow down, do this, make these investments, make it work for you, have a backup plan as far as financially, then yeah. So be more calculated. But when you don't have children, or if you're not married in your 20s and 30s, yeah, take all the risk possible. But don't let the ego blind you from what can possibly happen in the future.
And I think if you don't come from a lot, I think it's also important to look at what your beliefs are. Because I was like, oh, if I'm going to just make so much money, that is like, everything's great. Like, I'm not going to repeat, like, what my parents, and obviously they worked really hard. They were just coming here. I was like, I'm going to make a better life. But if you don't stop to reflect on what your beliefs are, or what you heard all the time growing up, like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, or if you heard your parents fighting about money, all that stuff stays stuck. And you can make all the money in the world, but at some point, these subconscious beliefs, I think, start to surface, and you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the seeds are planted there. You eventually realize, oh, my parents were right.
Yeah.
Of course.
And we can rewire all that. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
like,
all
you know,
those
I mean, they did something right. I mean, they were married for 60 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, they had some arguments. There's sometimes I'm thinking, man, y'all should get a divorce, but that was never a question,
Yeah. Different.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, times have changed. There's always an easy way out these days and stuff. So,
So many options, I think, too. It makes that hard.
there's so many
We're
options.
saturated with that. I feel like, for the
Yeah.
younger world, everybody's saturated. Even our age, that you just kind of like, yeah, maybe over there looks better. Still gonna be work wherever you go, whatever you do. I mean, it's not gonna. I think it comes down to us, right? Whatever who we
Yeah.
are, that's all that it is.
So the one thing I want to say is that as many conferences I've gone to, and I encourage going to conferences to hear other influencers speak. Again, I've been to Dave Ramsey, Kendra Scott, Goggins. What was that guy's name from the Prophet, the show of Prophet?
Oh my God, I don't know, but he was great.
He was
a great
good.
speaker. I can't remember his name. It was a good show too. Mark something? No.
Yeah, I forgot his name. But you know what really impresses me? What really impresses me when I hear these speakers speak, and they're right. A lot of them will reference biblical.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize that the book of Proverbs and the book of Psalms, everything when it comes to manifestation, when it comes to energy, it all comes from the Bible.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
All of it.
Yes.
It's the Bible's called the book of life for a reason.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes.
So I am very particular who I listen to because I don't like watching motivational talk without the reference where it came from. Not everything has to be a preaching and church ceremony as far as, but at the same time, where's your spiritual foundation at?
That's
Okay.
important to you. Yeah.
Because, I mean, to me it is. I don't want to plagiarize the Bible
Yeah.
and say, well, this is what you need to do, and this is my advice, and this and that. Hey, man, read Proverbs.
Yeah.
Dude, it will blow your mind how much motivation's in there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Actually,
Absolutely.
it's the funny. I'm laughing because I just I've got two adult children, and I purchased these books, and they're like photography, but with one is just Proverbs, one's Psalms, and then what's another one? It's three, but they're these beautiful like coffee table books, but
Yes.
it's just that, just those specifics, and because of that reason. Because I like saw it, I was reading about
Yeah.
it. I was like, "This is cool." I'm giving each one of them
Oh,
one
I love that.
specifically, but that's what it is that it comes from there.
It comes
you know?
from there. That's the origin of everything.
Yeah.
You know, I heard a video about a week ago about the origin of I am. So I am is actually God's name.
Yes.
You know, the origin of it. So when Moses asked, who do I say sent me? Just say I am.
I am.
You know?
Yeah.
And when Jesus was asked, are you the son of God? He said, I am. You know? So, and the reason of that is because when people say, I am a loser, I am doing this wrong, and you're still you're using God's name in vain that way as well. Don't say that.
Yeah.
I am capable. I am an achiever. I am a believer. Those things. So that's how important the words are that you speak. Isn't that crazy? And I'm still learning. That was just a week ago. I was like, oh man.
Well,
Yeah.
I
And I,
love
and I
those
am, I
moments,
think,
though.
is the strongest
The
word. And
strongest
it's
one.
something that like kids and everyone just throws out
All of
so
us.
flippantly.
Just ran-
Like,
yeah.
they're just like, oh, I am this.
I'm
and
awful at this, or I'm you know.
Yeah.
I've really learned that like over the last 2 years,
know
really getting into Delulu magic, and even like the faith the size of a mustard seed, right?
Yes.
That is being Delulu. You have to have that faith. You have to be like,
Yes.
I am already this. And why? Because I'm part of the creator. Like
Yeah.
he gives us everything, right? And if it's for us, you know, if it's meant
Yeah.
for us, it's us.
Oh, 100%. My daughter texts me. She made like a 69 on she has all A's and one B, but she struggles in history. I guess it bores her. But she had like a 69 in her history test, and she goes, she texts me, I'm so dumb. And out picture from school, I go, don't ever say that about yourself.
Yeah.
Don't ever say I am this negative about yourself. Don't ever say it. Because you start believing it.
Yeah.
And you start going down that path of trying to dig yourself out of a hole. You know? So yeah, I'm all about it now as far as I am capable, you know, as doing what I need to do to overcome on the needs, not what I want. You know, it's really on the needs, not what you want. Everybody wants more, but do you need it?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of flexing going on social media, a lot.
Of course.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I want to be as transparent as possible on social media. I'm open to talk about my bankruptcy, my chapter in life. I love this chapter of being a basketball dad. You know, I love being here and going back to old relationships and say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Running into people by accident. You know, it's like, cool. You know, those are the needs that somebody needs to grow and navigate.
Going.
You know, there's no coincidence.
There isn't. No, I know. I think even running
You
into
know
each
that.
other,
You
right? It's
know
just the
that.
synchronicity of
Yeah.
life. And sometimes when we're just not open, right? We're not seeing all the opportunities that God and the synchronicities that God is like putting
Yeah.
before us. And so I think when you're in that energy, you just see it easier and
Yeah.
things just come to you, and it's so crazy. Like, you know, your customer came back and, you know, it because you weren't stressing
I wasn't stressing
about it.
Yeah.
Whereas like sometimes when we're so like this, it just like it slips
Yeah.
away.
Sure.
You can't.
Because nobody wants to deal with that breakup. Like, oh man, he was drama when we stopped working with him. They don't want to come back.
I just had one of those.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, so it works. And again, there's no coincidences.
Yeah.
She didn't know I was going to be in Houston this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't know.
No.
And when she hit me up, I go, hey, I'm going to be in Houston.
Yeah.
So,
I know, it's incredible.
so I'm here.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
know, it was
So-
meant to be.
Yeah.
She sent me a social media link, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool.
I know, and it's so funny telling people like from the
No.
past. I'm like, hey, I'm working.
You knew her as that her what the role she had before with
Yes.
Yeah,
and
just like
flow and
nonstop,
yes,
always, yeah, you know.
Go
I
get
feel
it,
like
Paula.
it's a different energy, a different feel, and I'm much happier to chase some or to do something that I really enjoy and love.
Yeah.
Which is
Well, I
this and
hope I've
growing.
helped out in any substance that can complement y'all's podcast. And I think, when it comes to podcasts, it does take consistency. It does take time. But information and that's going to be helpful for other people will continue the viewership and to make it work.
Yes, yeah,
You
no,
know.
we're grateful for you. What advice would you give your 18-year-old self? I want to close
My
out. with
18-year-old
that.
self. I come from a very small town. Have no idea. I would probably tell myself, I had no idea. When I moved to San Antonio, that was the furthest north I'd ever been in Texas, coming from one high school town.
Yeah.
I would probably tell myself, never be surprised. Yeah. Because everything was like, whoa. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, it was just different for me to see a city. And again, this is San Antonio. It's
Yes.
not Houston or Dallas. Or it was 2 hours north I moved up to. But yeah, never let anything surprise you, and just navigate appropriately.
Navigate
You know.
appropriately. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
really good.
Yeah. So nothing surprises me anymore. It's like, okay. Here's the thing: if you're overly surprised, allows you to be vulnerable as well too, from others just saying, "Oh, you like that, huh?"
Yeah.
You know what I
You're
mean?
too impressed.
Yeah.
Elliot's like, I'm keeping it cool. I'm not.
Yeah. Don't be so impressionable.
Yeah, the impressionable thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Kind of like
yeah.
learn to,
Yeah, navigate. And one of my daughter's friends, and I think that's a word that's going, I don't know, maybe they're on TikTok. He said, he goes, oh, you have an aura. And I heard it from another little middle school kid, aura. You guys, you don't even know what aura means.
I'm like, what does it mean to them?
Yeah, what does it mean to you? You know?
Yeah.
But I think that to go back and not to be so long-winded, to go back to, I call it the it factor, the law of attraction. My father had it. When he would walk into a room, people would stop and say, "Who's this man?"
Yeah.
He didn't have to say anything. He wore a fedora hat,
Yeah.
suit, but they wanted to know who he was.
Yes.
I think that comes a lot with confident women and confident men. You walk into a space and you feel like you belong there. That's what it is.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a position in life that you don't feel like you don't belong at. Take ownership in the space, in the air you breathe, and you belong there. Yeah.
No. And I think that comes with self-love and again in your relationship with God, because the more I got closer to God and like my connection with him was like me loving myself more. I'm like, well, I'm perfect. We're all different and we're all going to have, and we all have flaws, but this is the way, I was created, and obviously we improve on certain things, but we are perfect.
Yeah.
So I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Love that.
So yeah, I'm learning from middle school kids too.
Yeah. We all learn from everyone.
So very cool.
Thank you so much for being here today. We
Yes.
really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
you
us.
as our
Or having
guest.
me. I say us.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. So remember, guys, nothing changes unless you do.
So stay Delulu and make it happen. Please remember to subscribe and like.